My teacher tried to put his hands on me, so I got help from the one girl everyone deemed was evil. I was in sophomore year when Madeline, the former popular girl of the school, came back after missing the first 5 months of the year. The entire class went dead silent. "There's the girl who hoed out and is now a mom at 16, someone yelled, piercing the silence. The entire class started laughing. That day, Madeline was sitting alone in the cafeteria getting insults thrown at her. I wanted to sit beside her, but my friend grabbed my shoulder and handed me a balled-up paper to throw at her. "Don't feel bad. She deserves this. She baby-trapped her boyfriend. Instead of going college to play football, he's now changing diapers." I watched Madeline for the next few weeks, and I saw how her life at school became hell. Teachers, once fascinated by her kindness and intelligence, now looked at her like she's what's wrong with society. They'd answer Madeline's questions sarcastically, treat her like she didn't belong, and during an intimacy safety class, the teacher giving the presentation stared directly at her the whole way through. The students were no better too. Girls who used to copy her style now whispered "tramp" when she passed. Her friend group exiled her immediately. She had to deactivate her social media within 2 weeks. But all throughout this, I noticed something about Madeline, and it's that Madeline never let the bullying turn her spiteful. I saw her tutoring special needs kids after school. I saw her slip lunch money to a freshman who forgot his. She always had tampons in her backpack for girls who needed them. Nobody ever thanked her for it. They just took what they needed and went back to pretending she didn't exist. Everything changed the day I decided to skip 5th period. My mom had been on another bender the night before and had hurt me, and I needed a smoke break to stop my hands from shaking. I went to the hidden spot behind the gym with no cameras to have a smoke. I was halfway through my cigarette when I heard footsteps. Mr. Peterson, my geometry teacher, appeared around the corner. Everyone loved him. Girls giggled when he made jokes in class. "Rough day?" he asked, moving closer to me. I knew I'd been caught, so I locked eyes and asked him not to tell anyone. "I won't," he responded. "I've noticed you've been stressed lately. I could help you relax," he then said. Before I could process what was happening, he had me backed against the wall. His hands started sliding down my arms and I completely froze. My cigarette fell from my fingers. "Just let me help you," he whispered. "Back the F away." Madeline rounded the corner with pepper spray pointed directly at his face. Her hand was steady even though her voice shook with rage. Mr. Peterson stumbled backward and tried to play it off. "I was just checking on a troubled student. You're misunderstanding the situation. I saw everything. Leave now." The way she said it made him actually listen. He muttered something about reporting us for smoking and disappeared. I stared at her with thankfulness in my eyes. She told me she came out for a cigarette too. She wasn't a hero, just right place, right time. Madeline walked me straight to the principal's office. She demanded something be done about Mr. Peterson, but Principal Hayes barely looked up from his computer. "Mr. Peterson has taught here for 15 years without a single complaint. Are you sure you didn't misinterpret what you saw?" He had her pinned against a wall with his hands on her, Madeline said. Hayes turned to me. "Is that what happened? Sometimes when we're upset, we see things differently than they really are." Then he looked at Madeline and his voice got even more condescending. "Given your situation, I understand you might see problems where none exist. If you didn't want drama, maybe you should have thought about that at 15. Madeline's face went red, filled with tears, and she walked out of the office. Too shy or scared to speak, I followed her. I wanted to talk to her right there and then, but she was gone. I didn't see her for the next 2 days, but when she came back, the worst thing possible happened to her. I was in algebra when one of the guys who often made jokes about Madeline called me over to show something on his phone. I was reluctant at first, but he and a few others pressured me until I agreed. He opened up our year group's privated IG gossip account and told me to take a look while laughing. My stomach dropped. There was a post of Madeline, but it wasn't her. It was AI-generated nude photos, with her face photoshopped on. I felt sick. "Pretty funny, right?" he told me, laughing and turning to his friends behind him. I think they thought I was one of them. I just nodded and left the room. I had seen Madeline earlier in the day, so I immediately went looking for her, and I found her. In that smoke spot behind the gym, she was sitting on the ground, bawling her eyes out. I didn't even say anything. I just sat beside her and comforted her. And after 10 minutes of painful sobbing, she turned to me and said, "You're the only friend I have left." She then lunged into me. "You deserve to know the truth," she pressed against my chest. "My boyfriend Jake isn't the father. He left me when I found out I was pregnant." I couldn't believe it. "Then who is the father?" I asked hesitantly. "Mr. Peterson," she said before bursting into tears again. My heart dropped. That was the same teacher who she had stopped from assaulting me. I processed everything she'd just told me while Madeline's phone buzzed insistently with texts. Her hands shook as she silenced it, and right then Peterson's face appeared on an incoming faculty email about tomorrow's parent-teacher conferences. The timing made my skin crawl. Madeline wiped her eyes and pulled up old messages on her phone. Through her tears, she showed me texts from freshman year where Peterson called her mature for her age and said she was special. My stomach churned reading them. While she scrolled, I quickly screenshotted everything with my own phone, pretending to just be looking. One message made me pause. Peterson mentioned their special understanding and how other people wouldn't get it. I finally found my voice and asked why she never reported him. Madeline's face crumpled. She explained how she'd tried telling her parents when she first got pregnant, but they accused her of seducing him for better grades. Her father threw her out that same night, calling her disgusting names I won't repeat. Her own family chose their reputation over protecting their daughter. Her phone lit up again. Dylan, her former best friend, texted asking if she was okay because he'd seen her crying from the science building window. Madeline ignored it, but I noticed the message. My mind raced with what to do. Part of me wanted to march straight to Peterson's classroom and confront him, but I knew that wouldn't help Madeline. Instead, I decided to play along while documenting everything. Peterson's car was still in the parking lot. I could see it from where we sat. We eventually got up to leave. Walking toward the parking lot, we spotted Peterson by the tennis courts talking animatedly with 3 female freshmen. His hand rested on one girl's shoulder. Madeline froze completely, her whole body going rigid. In the parking lot, I watched Madeline frantically frantically deleting something from her phone. When I asked what she was doing, she admitted she'd been erasing their old conversations because her parents were threatening to take her baby. They'd filed papers claiming she was an unfit mother. I convinced her to forward the text to my phone first before deleting them. Just as she hit send, Peterson walked past us. He saw us together and his expression darkened instantly. He mouthed something at Madeline that looked like "careful" before continuing to his car. That evening, my mother received a call while I was doing homework. I heard her answering questions about me, her voice getting increasingly concerned. After she hung up, she came to my room looking troubled. Peterson had called expressing concern about my smoking and emotional state, suggesting I might need counseling. My mother, still feeling guilty about hurting me during her bender, bought into Peterson's concerned teacher act completely. She grounded me for my own good, taking away my phone and saying I couldn't go anywhere except school and home. Later that night, while my mom was passed out, I snuck my phone back and found more messages from Madeline. She'd remembered something, a voicemail Peterson left her that she'd saved in a hidden folder. She sent it to me. Listening to it made me feel sick. Peterson threatened to fail her if she didn't meet him after school, and the timestamp showed it was from approximately 9 months before her baby was born. In the background, I could hear the distinctive echo of the gym storage room. My phone buzzed with another text, this time from Jake, Madeline's ex-boyfriend. He asked why I was hanging out with that tramp, then added that people were already talking about me too. Peterson had apparently been telling other students I was going down the same path as Madeline. The next morning at school, my best friend Chloe pulled me aside near my locker. She warned me that Peterson had been talking to other teachers, telling them I might be troubled like Madeline, and asking them to watch for signs of me acting out. The way she said it made it clear she believed him. During lunch, I sat alone reviewing my own freshman year texts. My blood ran cold when I realized Peterson had started the same pattern with me. The "you're so mature" comments, the offers of extra help. He'd suddenly lost interest around the time Madeline got pregnant. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. In geometry class that afternoon, Peterson announced he was organizing a peer counseling program for at-risk students. He looked directly at me and Madeline when he said it, then volunteered us both as his first participants. The other students snickered. After school, I headed to my job at the local grocery store where I'd worked since sophomore year. The manager, Sarah Peterson, Mr. Peterson's wife, called me into her office. She claimed another employee saw me stealing from the register. It was a complete lie, but she said she was giving me a chance by not calling the police. Yet, frustrated and scared, I tried talking to the school counselor, Mrs. Martinez, but she dismissed my concerns immediately. Peterson had coached her daughter's volleyball team to state championships. There was even a photo on her desk of Peterson with her whole family at the celebration dinner. That night, I created a fake Instagram account and managed to get into our year group's private page. I needed to monitor what was being said about Madeline and now me. Scrolling through old posts, I found the source of those AI images of Madeline. The account that posted them was created the same day, and its bio contained a quote Peterson always used in class about geometric beauty. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. The next day at lunch, I overheard 3 junior girls at the next table complaining about Peterson being weird lately. One mentioned he'd been constantly offering after-school help they didn't need, and another said he somehow knew their schedules by heart, even though they weren't in his classes. I started paying closer attention to Peterson's movements. He always positioned himself where he could watch the special needs classroom where Madeline tutored. His breaks mysteriously aligned with hers. He was stalking her in plain sight. During passing period, a quiet kid named Sean from Peterson's geometry class approached me by the water fountain. He glanced around nervously before saying he had information about Peterson, but only if I promised to protect his identity. I agreed immediately. Sean revealed that Peterson had tried to manipulate him into spreading rumors about Madeline online. When Sean refused, Peterson got angry. But Sean was smart. He'd kept screenshots of everything. Peterson had used a fake account but slipped up with identifying details that proved it was him. Right after Sean showed me the evidence, Peterson appeared in the hallway. He saw us talking and his face went dark. Without missing a hit, he assigned Sean detention for a month for chronic tardiness. Sean had never been late to class in his life. That afternoon, Madeline's phone buzzed again. Dylan had texted saying he'd been thinking about freshman year and how some things didn't add up. He wanted to talk to her in person. Madeline showed me the message, unsure what to do. We both knew Dylan might have seen something important, but trusting anyone felt dangerous now. Peterson's rumor campaign escalated the next morning. I overheard 2 teachers in the hallway discussing my concerning behavior and how I seemed to be following Madeline's path. One mentioned Peterson had suggested I might be experimenting with my sexuality, knowing exactly how my religious mother would react to such implications. My mother's reaction came faster than expected. She showed up at school during lunch, demanding to speak with me about my lifestyle choices. Her face was tight with anger and shame. Peterson had called her again, expressing worry about my unhealthy attachment to Madeline. The confrontation in the school office left me humiliated and furious. That afternoon, I started documenting Peterson's manipulation tactics in a notebook. Having survived years of my mother's drunken gaslighting, I recognized the patterns immediately. He isolated victims, turned their support systems against them, then positioned himself as the only person who understood. The same playbook, different target. Dylan finally met us at the diner after school. He kept glancing around nervously, as if Peterson might materialize at any moment. He revealed something that made my blood run cold. He'd seen Peterson's car parked outside Madeline's house multiple times last spring, always during evening tutoring sessions when her parents worked late. The pattern was undeniable. Chloe found me in the bathroom the next day, her face pale. She'd just witnessed Peterson taking photos of girls during PE class through the gymnasium windows. When confronted by the PE teacher, he claimed he was documenting dress code violations for the administration, but Chloe saw his phone screen. The photos focused on specific body parts, not clothing. My mother discovered my notebook that evening while searching my room for evidence of corruption. Instead of the reaction I feared, she sat on my bed and read read every page in silence. Her hands trembled as she recognized the predatory patterns from her own past. For the first time in years, she looked at me with clear, sober eyes and believed me. The next morning, my mother marched into the school board office demanding action. The secretary took notes politely, but the message was clear. Without concrete evidence beyond the testimony of troubled students, they couldn't act on hearsay. My mother left defeated but not broken. I met Madeline's grandmother for the first time while helping with babysitting duties. The elderly woman showed me photo albums filled with Madeline's academic achievements: straight A's, honor roll certificates, science fair ribbons. Everything changed after Peterson started tutoring her freshman year. The grandmother had kept every report card, creating an undeniable timeline of decline. Using my fake Instagram account, I began messaging girls who had liked or commented on posts about Peterson. 3 responded with stories of uncomfortable encounters, lingering touches during tutoring, comments about their bodies disguised as compliments, invitations to discuss grades privately after school. None had reported him, fearing they'd be dismissed or blamed. At work, I noticed Sarah Peterson seemed increasingly distracted. She fumbled with the cash register and forgot employee schedules. During her break, I overheard her on a personal call in the back office. She mentioned her husband had been distant since last year, sleeping in his home office and constantly deleting text messages. The marriage was crumbling from within. I continued gathering evidence methodically, rather than rushing to expose everything. This restraint earned me credibility with classmates who had initially dismissed my concerns. Even skeptics began noticing Peterson's behavior once I pointed out specific patterns: how he memorized female students' schedules, positioned himself in hallways to intercept them, and offered unnecessary academic help to struggling girls. Madeline's situation grew more desperate when she revealed her parents had filed for emergency custody 2 weeks prior. They claimed she was an unfit mother, citing her promiscuous behavior and unstable lifestyle. The hearing was scheduled in 2 weeks. If the court deemed her unfit, they would take her baby. Sean's mother, a paralegal at a local law firm, reviewed our evidence privately. She confirmed what we feared. While compelling, it wasn't enough for criminal charges. However, the pattern of professional misconduct could end his teaching career. She offered to help pro bono, seeing her own son's narrow escape from Peterson's manipulation. During parent-teacher conferences, my mother studied Peterson's interactions with other parents. She noticed he avoided eye contact with mothers, directing all conversation to fathers. His body language screamed guilt: crossed arms, stepping backward when women approached, excessive sweating despite the cool evening. Even his practiced charm couldn't hide his discomfort. Peterson attempted a new manipulation tactic the following week. He pulled me aside after class, offering to write a glowing college recommendation letter if I would stop spreading harmful gossip about him. I recorded the entire conversation on my phone hidden in my pocket, capturing his attempted bribe clearly. 3 teachers approached me separately over the next few days. Each mentioned noticing concerning behavior from Peterson, but admitted they'd been afraid to be the first to speak up. One revealed she'd stopped sending female students to his tutoring sessions after picking up weird vibes. Another mentioned his habit of accidentally walking into the girls' locker room during class changes. My research into Peterson's past revealed troubling patterns. He'd started at our school after leaving his previous position mid-year. Online forums for teachers contained vague mentions of inappropriate conduct and concerns about boundaries, but nothing concrete enough to prevent him from finding new employment. The pattern of leaving schools mid-year repeated itself 3 times over 5 years. Peterson's support network consisted primarily of Principal Hayes, 2 school board members he golfed with every weekend, and parents who knew him only as the charismatic teacher who helped their children pass geometry. This network had protected him from consequences for years, dismissing any concerns as misunderstandings or jealous rumors. Through public records requests and school board meeting minutes, I discovered Peterson had worked at 3 different schools in 5 years, each time leaving voluntarily mid-year. The reasons were never specified, but the pattern was clear. Each school had likely faced similar situations, choosing to let him resign quietly rather than face scandal. My mother faced pressure from extended family to stop causing trouble at my school. They worried about reputation and college applications, but she stood firm, supporting our evidence gathering and even helping coordinate with other concerned parents. She admitted seeing her younger self in Madeline, another girl failed by adults who should have protected her. Madeline and I developed a system of coded text messages and signals to communicate safely. We knew Peterson monitored social media and possibly had allies among students reporting back to him. Our shared trauma bonded us into an alliance stronger than any friendship I'd previously known. The temptation to publicly destroy Peterson grew stronger each day, especially when I saw him charming unknowing parents or joking with male colleagues. But we continued building our case methodically, knowing that patience would ensure he couldn't escape consequences by claiming we were vindictive students trying to ruin an innocent teacher. Peterson made a crucial mistake during a confrontation in his empty classroom. I'd stayed after school to collect an assignment, and he cornered me, demanding to know what I was trying to accomplish. In his anger, he mentioned specific details about Madeline's pregnancy timeline that only someone intimately involved would know. He realized his error immediately, his face paling as he stammered an excuse about overhearing gossip. Sarah Peterson's discovery of a motel receipt changed everything. She found it while looking for tax documents in their home office. A cash payment for a room at a highway motel, dated during school hours last spring. The timestamp matched when Peterson had claimed to be at a district training session. She began her own investigation. Teachers who had been friendly with Peterson started avoiding him after I shared specific dates and behavioral patterns. They compared notes and realized his coincidental appearances at certain locations matched times when vulnerable female students were alone. The pattern was too consistent to ignore. My fake Instagram account revealed a network of girls privately discussing Peterson's behavior behavior in direct messages. They'd been protecting each other silently, warning new students to avoid being alone with him, and creating buddy systems for anyone who needed tutoring. Their quiet resistance had been ongoing for years. Local parents outside the school's official channels began their own investigation after my mother shared concerns at her book club. These parents compared notes about their daughter's experiences, finding similarities in Peterson's grooming techniques. The community's awareness grew organically, beyond the school's ability to control or dismiss. Peterson tried one more manipulation when he cornered me after school. He offered scholarship recommendations and college connections if I would stop making waves. But he slipped during his pitch, mentioning private details about Madeline that only someone who'd been intimate with her would know. I recorded every word. Former students began reaching out through social media after word spread about our investigation. Several shared stories of Peterson's inappropriate behavior, nothing they could prove legally, but clear patterns of grooming and boundary violations. Many mentioned almost reporting him but being discouraged by the school's obvious favoritism toward him. Peterson's options narrowed as his carefully constructed world crumbled. Sarah kicked him out after confronting him about the motel receipt and deleted texts. Teachers avoided him in hallways. Students openly refused his offers of extra help. His isolation grew daily. My research uncovered news articles about Peterson's previous schools that mentioned addressing student concerns and staff changes to ensure student safety. While carefully worded to avoid legal issues, the pattern was clear. Each school had likely dealt with similar accusations, choosing to pass the problem along rather than face it directly. The narrator's efforts to protect younger students intensified. I organized study groups that ensured vulnerable students were never alone with Peterson, recruiting senior volunteers to supervise. We created safety without making accusations, protecting potential victims while building our case. Our support network solidified into an unofficial alliance: Madeline's grandmother, my mother, Dylan, Sean's mother, and 3 concerned teachers. Each brought different resources and perspectives, creating a formidable opposition to Peterson's institutional protection. Peterson's attempts to discredit me failed repeatedly, as multiple witnesses contradicted his version of events. When he claimed I was failing geometry, 3 students confirmed I'd been helping them study. When he said I was disruptive in class, classmates testified I rarely spoke. His lies became increasingly desperate and transparent. Principal Hayes finally faced the truth when security footage showed Peterson attempting to access Madeline's confidential records after hours. He'd used his key to enter the administrative office at midnight, searching for information to use against her in the custody hearing. The security guard reported it immediately, creating an undeniable paper trail. Students who had participated in bullying Madeline began approaching her with apologies. They realized they'd been manipulated into tormenting a victim, rather than the homewrecker Peterson had portrayed her as. Some offered to testify about the rumors he'd spread, wanting to make amends for their cruelty. Multiple witnesses came forward confirming Peterson's presence at the Highway Motel during school hours. The desk clerk remembered him because he'd paid cash and seemed nervous, constantly checking his phone and looking over his shoulder. Former students identified the motel as a location he'd mentioned in inappropriate contexts. The custody hearing loomed just 48 hours away. We needed to present enough evidence to prove Madeline was a victim of predation, not a promiscuous teenager who'd seduced her teacher. The distinction would determine whether she kept her baby or lost everything. During a student council meeting about new safety protocols, 3 girls privately approached the advisor afterward. They wanted to report concerns about Peterson, but needed assurance of protection from retaliation. Their stories matched established patterns: inappropriate comments, unnecessary touching during tutoring, suggestions of special relationships. I realized that winning meant more than just exposing Peterson. We needed to ensure Madeline kept her baby, rebuilt her life, and found justice. The investigation had become about protecting future victims and validating past ones, not just revenge against one predator. Our focus on documentation and factual evidence maintained our credibility. We refused to exaggerate or embellish, knowing the truth was damning enough. This approach convinced even skeptical community members that our concerns were legitimate, not a witch hunt by troubled students. Madeline's parents finally faced the overwhelming evidence from multiple sources. Confronted with testimony from teachers, parents, and students, they could no longer deny their daughter had been victimized. Their worldview shattered as they realized they'd failed to protect their child when she needed them most. Through persistent individual conversations and careful evidence sharing, the truth became undeniable throughout the school community. Peterson's carefully maintained image cracked and crumbled as more people recognized the patterns we'd documented. His defenders grew fewer and quieter. The school board placed Peterson on administrative leave pending investigation. While a small victory, it felt hollow knowing he'd escaped consequences at multiple schools before. He smirked while collecting his belongings from his classroom, confident his connections would protect him again. Peterson's confidence proved misplaced when he filed a formal complaint against me for harassment. The school board meeting to address his complaint became his downfall when Sarah Peterson arrived with printed emails between her husband and previous schools. Similar accusations had surfaced before, showing a clear pattern of predatory behavior and institutional cover-ups. The school board meeting turned into a spectacle when Sarah Peterson stood up during public comment period. She pulled out a thick folder of printed emails, bank statements, and phone records. Her hands shook as she distributed copies to each board member. The emails showed Peterson had faced similar accusations at his previous schools, each time resigning before investigations concluded. Peterson's face went from confident to ashen as Sarah methodically presented evidence. She discovered he'd been using their joint savings to pay for motel rooms, always withdrawing cash to avoid credit card trails. The dates matched school hours when he claimed to be at conferences or district meetings. 2 former colleagues from Peterson's previous schools attended the meeting after Sarah contacted them. They testified about concerns they'd raised internally, producing documentation showing administrators had chosen to let Peterson resign quietly, rather than pursue investigations. The pattern spanned a decade. The accumulated evidence triggered an immediate criminal investigation. Detectives interviewed students past and present, building a case that went beyond professional misconduct. Peterson's pattern of changing grades for female students who suddenly stopped attending his tutoring sessions emerged from old-school records. Madeline's custody hearing arrived with the investigation in full swing. The judge reviewed evidence of Peterson's predation, alongside testimony about Madeline's character from teachers who'd witnessed her helping other students. The grandmother's documentation of Madeline's academic decline after Peterson's tutoring began proved crucial. The judge ruled decisively in Madeline's favor, recognizing her as a victim rather than an unfit mother. Her parents sat in stunned silence as the judge admonished them for failing to protect their daughter. The custody threat that had haunted Madeline for months evaporated in minutes. Community members rallied around Madeline after the hearing. Local businesses offered flexible part-time work that accommodated her childcare needs. A scholarship fund started by concerned parents grew quickly, ensuring she could attend community college while raising her daughter. Peterson's desperation peaked when he realized his teaching career was ending. He created multiple fake social media accounts, attempting to contact Madeline and violating the restraining order she'd obtained. Each message was tracked by IP address back to his devices, adding to the criminal charges. His arrest came during a school day. Police waited until passing period to minimize disruption, but students still witnessed him being led away in handcuffs. The geometry teacher who'd charmed parents and manipulated students for years looked small and pathetic in custody. Peterson made bail within hours using his retirement funds, but the conditions were strict. Electronic monitoring, no internet access, and absolutely no contact with minors or school property. His supporters dwindled as more evidence became public through court filings. Some community members who'd known Peterson for years struggled to accept the truth. They blamed the victims initially, claiming the girls must have misunderstood or exaggerated. These voices grew quieter as more former students came forward with similar experiences. Online harassment from Peterson's few remaining defenders targeted me and Madeline briefly. We handled it by documenting everything and forwarding it to prosecutors, who added witness intimidation to Peterson's charges. The harassment stopped when those responsible realized they were creating evidence against themselves. I made the decision to release our evidence compilation online after consulting with prosecutors. They confirmed it wouldn't interfere with the criminal case since everything was already in official records. The release triggered responses from two more former students who'd been too afraid to come forward alone. Peterson's final public appearance before trial came at his arraignment. He pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including intimate misconduct with minors, witness tampering, and evidence destruction. His lawyer's request for reduced bail was denied when prosecutors presented evidence of him researching flights to countries without extradition treaties. Sarah Peterson provided the final crucial evidence when she discovered her husband's cloud storage password while gathering documents for their divorce. The storage contained photos, videos, and documents that prosecutors described as deeply disturbing. She turned everything over immediately, disgusted by what she'd found. The school board meeting following Peterson's arrest focused on institutional failures. Principal Hayes faced harsh questioning about why concerns were dismissed and how Peterson maintained access to vulnerable students despite multiple red flags. The board voted to place Hayes on administrative leave pending a full investigation. 3 more teachers came forward during the institutional review, admitting they'd noticed concerning behavior but felt pressured to stay silent. The culture of protecting popular teachers over student safety became undeniable. The district implemented mandatory reporting training and new oversight protocols. Peterson's trial date was set for 6 months out, giving prosecutors time to build their strongest case. He remained under house arrest with electronic monitoring, his world shrinking to his elderly mother's spare bedroom. The man who'd controlled and manipulated for years was now controlled himself. Madeline started community college classes while I helped with childcare between my own classes. Our trauma bond evolved into genuine friendship built on mutual support and understanding. We studied together in her grandmother's kitchen while her daughter played nearby. The support network that formed during our investigation remained active. Parents created an informal monitoring system, watching for signs of predatory behavior from any staff member. Teachers felt empowered to report concerns without fear of retaliation. The culture shift was gradual but real. My mother's transformation continued beyond just believing me. She attended therapy to address her own trauma and drinking, wanting to be the parent I deserved. Our relationship slowly rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect, rather than guilt and manipulation. Dylan became a vocal advocate for believing victims after witnessing what Madeline endured. He used his social influence to challenge the culture that had enabled Peterson for so long. His public apology to Madeline for not seeing the truth sooner inspired others to examine their own complicity. Sean's courage in preserving evidence despite Peterson's retaliation made him a quiet hero among students. He started a peer support group for those dealing with inappropriate behavior from authority figures, creating the safe space that had been missing for so long. The grocery store hired 2 new cashiers to replace the position Sarah Peterson vacated after filing for divorce. She moved to another state to live with her sister, unable to face the community where she'd unknowingly enabled her husband's predation. Her last act was ensuring all evidence reached prosecutors. Peterson's house went up for sale to pay for his legal defense. The realtor mentioned potential buyers were scarce once they learned who'd lived there. The community's judgment extended beyond just Peterson himself to anything associated with him. More former students contacted prosecutors as trial approached, each adding another piece to the pattern of predation. The case files grew thick with testimony spanning Peterson's entire teaching career. What started as one girl's courage to speak up became an avalanche of truth. I testified before the grand jury about my own experience with Peterson and everything I'd witnessed with Madeline. The prosecutors prepared me thoroughly, but nothing fully prepared me for recounting those moments in detail. The grand jury returned indictments on all charges. Madeline's testimony proved even more powerful. She spoke clearly about the grooming, the manipulation, and the aftermath of becoming pregnant by her teacher. The grand jury members visibly struggled with their emotions as she described her family's rejection and the school's dismissal of her reports. The local news covered the case without sensationalizing it, focusing on the institutional failures that enabled Peterson rather than salacious details. They interviewed experts about recognizing grooming behaviors and protecting vulnerable students. The coverage educated rather than exploited. Peterson's attempts to delay trial through various legal maneuvers failed repeatedly. His claims of mental health issues requiring treatment were evaluated and deemed an attempt to avoid consequences rather than genuine need for psychiatric intervention. He remained under house arrest as trial approached. The scholarship fund for Madeline exceeded its initial goal, ensuring she could complete a 4-year degree without financial stress. Contributors included many who'd initially judged her harshly, now understanding she'd been victimized by someone who should have protected her. My college applications included essays about standing up for others and the importance of believing victims. The experience shaped my decision to pursue social work, wanting to be the advocate that Madeline and others like her needed. Several schools offered significant financial aid. Madeline excelled in her classes despite the challenges of single motherhood. Her professors noted her determination and insight, particularly in psychology and sociology courses where she could apply her lived experience to academic concepts. She maintained a near-perfect GPA. The trial began with jury selection taking 2 weeks as attorneys struggled to find impartial jurors. Peterson's reputation in the community made it difficult to find those who hadn't formed opinions. Eventually, 12 jurors and 4 alternates were seated. Prosecutors presented a methodical case built on documentation, testimony, and Peterson's own communications. Each witness added another layer to the pattern of predation. The defense struggled to counter the overwhelming evidence, resorting to character attacks on victims that backfired badly. Peterson took the stand against his lawyer's advice, unable to resist trying to charm his way out of consequences one last time. His testimony unraveled under cross-examination as prosecutors confronted him with his own words from emails, texts, and recorded conversations. His carefully maintained image shattered completely. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all major charges. Peterson showed no emotion as the verdicts were read, but his elderly mother sobbed in the gallery. The judge ordered him remanded to custody immediately, denying bail pending sentencing. Madeline and I attended the sentencing hearing together. Victim impact statements from multiple former students painted a picture of lasting trauma and stolen innocence. Madeline's statement focused not on her own pain, but on protecting future victims. The judge sentenced Peterson to 15 years with possibility of parole after 10. 2 years later, I visited Madeline at the State University where she'd transferred after completing community college. Her daughter played in the campus daycare while Madeline pursued her social work degree. We sat in the student union, no longer defined by our trauma, but shaped by our survival. Our friendship had become the unexpected gift from our darkest time.